Great seeing you here. This is the last part of the project planning performance domain. And here we are looking at checking the results. We discussed this at the beginning of this performance domain. What are the elements that we have to verify to ensure that we perform this performance domain properly? So let's have a look at the planning performance domain. As we defined it in the beginning, we look at the different activities and functions that are associated with the initial, ongoing, and evolving organization and coordination necessary for delivering the project deliverables and the different outcomes. When we want to verify the effective execution of this performance domain, we have to look at the following desired outcomes. The first outcome is about the project progress. The project should progress in an organized, coordinated, and deliberate manner. We make the plan in a way that we can realize this. The plan should provide this. The project outcomes are delivered through a holistic approach. We have to look at the totality of the project. We look at all the elements together. And it's not just about being on time or being within cost limits, but it's also looking at the outcomes, everything together. We have to consider all these elements, that they all are part of the delivery. We also look at the evolving information, which is elaborated to produce the deliverables and the outcomes as we defined in the project. The plan is created considering the situation of the project. We manage the stakeholders, and management of the stakeholder is possible with the information provided in the plan. It's very important that the stakeholders understand exactly what is part of the plan. And the last element is that we have change management processes that have been implemented. Change is an important part of a project, and we have to manage it properly. Let's have a look at the results. When we look at the first element, the project progresses in an organized, coordinated, and deliberate manner. How can we verify this? Well, we look at the progress compared with the baselines, and the elements, the information we have, provides information about the actual progress. The measured performance variances are within tolerances. We have to set up those tolerances, and as long as we are within those tolerances, we can say that the project progresses in an organized, coordinated, and deliberate manner. Another element is about the holistic approach to delivering the project outcomes. Here we have a delivery schedule, funding, resources availability, procurements, and so on. And they show that the project is planned in a holistic, all-integrating way. There are no gaps or areas of misalignment. We see that everything has been covered when we look at the planning. Then we have the next element. Evolving information is elaborated to produce deliverables and outcomes for which the project is undertaken. We look at an appropriate elaboration when we compare the initial information with the actual information related to the deliverables and the requirements. We also look at the actual information of the project status, and it confirms that the conditions of the business case are respected. It's very important to consider those elements of the business case, because the business case also describes where we have the value, where we have the risk. All these elements have to be verified. We have to see that we are still creating value, that, for example, the financial parameters are still acceptable. We look at net present value, internal rate of return, payback time, and some other parameters that may be part of that financial evaluation. Another element to consider is that the time spent for planning is appropriate for the situation. It is very important that when the project is planned, we have to evaluate the level of planning that is necessary. We have to consider how much planning effort did we do in order to create the plan compared to what the project actually needs. Too much planning is in fact creating problems, financial problems, motivation problems, and too little planning will also create issues when the project needs more planning. We have to find the exact amount of planning that is needed for this specific project. We look at the planning information is sufficient to manage stakeholders' expectations. Stakeholders are very important. We have to ensure that there is an adequate communication management plan and sharing of stakeholders' information, or stakeholders have to get the necessary information about the project during planning and execution. And the last element we will be looking at, that there is a process for the adaptation of plans throughout the project based on emerging and changing needs or conditions. Here we look at changes, we look at the backlogs, that we show the adaptation through the project, what's happening, for example, with the backlogs. And we have a change control processes where we have all the information necessary, where we have a change log, a change board meeting report, and documented decisions. So this last one is typically about changes, and we have a different way of dealing with changes when we have an adaptive or a predictive approach. So that's it for this lesson and for this performance domain. In the next lesson, we will start with the project work performance domain. And like always, we start with the introduction and the definitions. Great job, you finished another performance domain. Let's continue with the fifth performance domain. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next lessons. Thank you. Bye-bye.